Want to learn how to take a look at possible solutions for an issue you're having? Let's see how we can do that with the help of tarot. Keep watching. Hi, it's Leia. Welcome to this episode of Diaries of a Witchy Creative Life. This video is part of a series of how-tos that I've put together for the tarot beginner, or anyone who's wanting a refresher on their tarot practice, and even those who have an existing practice but are open to other ways of reading tarot or using tarot. I'll put a link to the playlist of those videos in the description so that you can take a look at the other ones that are already part of the series. So for anyone who's new to these videos, new to my channel, well, first of all, hi there! And secondly, this style of reading is not predictive. I know that tarot has the reputation of being a fortune-telling tool or a predictive tool, but that is only one of a number of uses that it has. What we do here is shadow work, self-discovery. We dive beneath the surface of what's obvious or what we know in our conscious minds for healing purposes so that we can face anything that we've been in denial of or that we've dissociated from, which nevertheless still affects our lives even if we sweep it under the rug. So that is what drives the readings that we do here. We are using the Lightseers Tarot by Chris Anne. In all the other videos in this series, I've been using this deck, so you can see that deck in action in the other videos as well, if you like it or are deciding whether to get it. So in this video, let's take a look at a spread that can help us ponder over a possible solution to a situation or an issue. In one of the videos in this series, if I'm not mistaken, it's the one that explores the "will my ex come back" question, we use a 2-card spread to identify what is a possible challenge or problem to a situation, if that isn't clear yet. Here, what we're doing is going one step further. So, we will be picking 3 cards to do a demo reading. Let's pick those 3 cards now and set them right here so that they're ready for us to explore. The first card is the situation. This is what's going on. The second is the challenge or the obstacle. And the third is the solution. So by no means are we promising here that, oh, the problem is fixed or solved once that we take a look at the third card. What that third card does is bring up points for the sitter or whoever you're reading to ponder, which could lead to a possible solution. So before we start flipping the cards over, I've mentioned this before, but if you haven't heard it yet, or even if you have, I think this is worth repeating. As the reader, you should already have an idea of the situation as told by your sitter. This is not an opportunity to impress your sitter by showing them how much of the situation you know without them telling you. So that's true for this kind of reading where we do shadow work. I know that in some other readings, psychic work is incorporated there, so part of you showing that you are psychic or intuitive is telling them as much of the situation as you can without them telling you the story behind it. But here, our goal is to help the sitter dig, to help the sitter face hard truths or find out what they might have been keeping from themselves or deliberately have been in denial of. So you may be wondering, what's the point then of having a card that symbolizes or stands for the situation if your sitter or your client is already going to tell you what's going on? Having a card that represents the situation is not redundant. This is an opening to start doing shadow work around the issue. And let's go back to intuition and psychic ability for a moment. I would say that these still come in handy in this kind of reading to help you as the reader gently, tactfully, skillfully Ask the sitter the questions that could help them tell their truth or begin to face it. But otherwise, there really isn't any point in using up your time together with you, the reader, telling them what's going on when they themselves can tell you that. As it is, they're going to tell you the parts that they do know or the parts that they are aware of. We're going to help uncover those other parts that shadow work is especially meant for. So let's have a sample situation here for a demo reading. Let's say you have a client that comes to you saying they're involved with somebody and it's getting more and more difficult because they aren't in a committed relationship. But at the same time, they kind of act like they are in one. They say, I love you. They're sweet towards each other. But that person has not committed to them. And they don't know what to do anymore because they've put their life on hold for this person. The sitter is serious about finding a relationship or a mate. And they feel like the issue here is that it feels like the other person is stringing them along, even though the other person says they're not. They just can't commit right now or can't be together right now, but they love the sitter. And the sitter's been involved with this person for a while now, so let's say it's a few years. So they very much care for them and don't want to just leave this situation behind, but they also feel like this isn't fair to them. So what should they do? Let's say that's what they tell you the situation is. So now, when we flip the situation card over, that should help us explore even more of it. So the situation card is the Two of Swords. At this point, we tell the sitter what the card means. If you watch the other videos in this series, you'll have a better idea of how doing readings in this style works. And if you're a beginner, like I always say, feel free to take a look at the book for the card meaning. So the Two of Swords is about being at a crossroads, not knowing what to do, feeling like you have to make a difficult decision. And there's also a nudge here to act, to take some sort of action, even if it's small, even if it's a baby step. And the reason for that is sometimes we need to act in order to not just get things moving, but to give us an idea of how we would like to proceed. Because sometimes taking that action, what it tells you is, oh no, that was actually not what I wanted to do. And so we can course correct from there. But it does give us an idea of what to do next as compared to if you don't act at all and you're just continuing to stay in that stuck state. Okay, so a lot of the meanings of the card, we already know they correspond to the situation that the sitter has shared with us. But there might be a couple of things that they haven't quite explored yet. For example, the part about feeling like they have to make a difficult decision. You can ask them, what would you like to do? Even if that isn't what you actually do. Let's explore here. Let's play devil's advocate and see where this goes. And they could say, well, I really want to be in a relationship with them, but of course, that doesn't depend on just me. So taking that out of the equation, as the reader, we can prod them gently to begin thinking about that then. Even if they don't answer it right then and there, because a reading is something that you take with you. As the sitter, that's something that you contemplate on. If you don't have answers right then and there, you don't have to force them. You can meditate on what you receive during the session and let whatever comes to you come to you when it will or at a later time. So now let's flip over the second card, which in this spread is the Challenge. And it is number 16 in the Major Arcana, the Tower. And we do the same thing now that we did with the first card, which is to share the meaning with the sitter. And from there, apply it to their situation and see how they relate to it. So the Tower stands for chaos, destruction, sudden changes, Life as you've known it is shaken up. Everything comes crashing down. The Tower is considered to be one of the scary cards in the tarot, although it comes bearing gifts as well, because, and this matches up well with shadow work, whatever isn't working, being broken down, means there is room for what can work or what is more beneficial to come into the picture. It means that we can now replace all that used to be there with something better. And no, it isn't easy, especially if we've grown comfortable with this old way of life. And that could be what the sitter says too. What's so difficult about this situation is I want it to work out so badly. And by work out so badly, I mean be with this person. I've been counting on us being together. I've made plans for the kind of life that I'm gonna have once we're together. And I'm basically just waiting on them to finally commit so that can all happen. If I break it off, it means that none of these things that I was counting on or dreaming about are going to happen. It means that I have to give up on all that. It means that I have to start over. And that really hurts, because now I have to face too that they didn't love me enough to want to be with me. So you allow your sitter, of course, to keep sharing these thoughts and feelings that are coming up. It may even trigger memories that are related to this situation that make it so difficult for them to move on from it. And they could possibly realize that that is part of the reason why it's difficult to make any kind of decision, because this is something that they feel they have to get right. For some people, for instance, who've experienced abandonment in their earlier years, if this situation does not work out, it's going to be another abandonment, and they don't want that. Whether they were actually abandoned or not, that's what they equate it with, is what they discover after they do a little reflecting and digging. And at this point, if they're open to seeing a possible solution, whether they follow it or not, we flip over the third card. As we mentioned earlier, this is the solution, or the possible solution, or the key to a solution, something along those lines. And it is the Seven of Swords. Let me make a little light adjustment here to see if we can get that glare off the card. Here. There we go. I got the glare off of the last card, which is what we're focusing on right now, but there is a little bit on the middle card. So what is the meaning of the Seven of Swords? This is what we are going to share with our sitter. Being stealthy, acting in secret. It could also refer to stealing, and related to that, it brings into question now personal morals. So you could ask the sitter, how does any of that apply to you? What does that bring up in you? And they could say, the person I'm involved with has assured me that they aren't with anyone else. That's not the reason why they can't be with me. And yet I feel like I'm their secret. They haven't introduced me to any of their friends, any of their family. They only send me messages when they're at work, or they call me when they're at work, but they never do that when they're home. And while I want to believe them so badly that they aren't with anyone else, what they're doing makes me feel like maybe they are. And I don't want to be the person who breaks up a relationship. I don't want to be the person that somebody's sneaking around with. And as painful as it is, that is what helps me lean towards breaking it off. I might not be able to do it at once, but I could remind myself of the reality of this situation, as I know it at least, because I don't really know what's going on their end. But what I do know is any moments we have together feel like they're stolen. It makes me feel like a horrible person in some way, because why am I sneaking around? So okay, as our sample sitter themselves has said, the solution may not come so easily, even if there are insights, even if they do know what they're leaning towards. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again for anyone who's only coming across these videos for the first time. In this style of reading that I'm sharing with you, we don't give advice, most especially not based on what we ourselves would do in that situation. Different people have different moral compasses and different beliefs, and all we can do really is help the sitter realize what's right for them, whether they choose to follow that or not. And there are definitely lengthier spreads if you want to keep going or want to keep looking at different aspects of the situation. But even as an experienced reader, many years down the line, this could be a helpful spread that's more on the concise side. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. For those of you who resonate with this style of reading, I'm glad it was helpful. As I said, this is part of a series, so do take a look at the other videos in this series if you haven't yet, and there will be more to come. Please subscribe so you don't miss a thing. I'll be back with many more shadow work, inner awareness, healing tarot type videos, so stay tuned. Take care of yourself until next time. Bye for now. Lots more Diaries of a Witchy Creative Life are coming your way.